What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and today we are continuing my 2.0 draft rankings to get you guys ready for the Combine week and in general for the draft. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the defensive line, and we're going to break it up into two halves. First, we're going to go through the top 5 defensive tackles / 3-4, defensive ends and stuff like that. Guys that are primarily going to be the big guys, if you will. And then we're going to look at the top 5 edge rushers, which are primarily players that are getting after the quarterback and lining up as 4-3 defensive ends. But, because it gets in that murky water of a 3-4 outside linebacker and stuff, we're just going to classify them as edge rushers as well. It's versatile. Whereas the defensive tackles are guys that, their hands are always going to be in the dirt. So as we go through it, my original rankings will be posted up right now. So at number 5 for the defensive tackles, we had Taven Bryan from Florida. Number 4 was Deron Payne from Alabama. Number 3 was Maurice Hurst from Michigan. Number 2 was Vita Vea from Washington. And number 1 was Christian Wilkins from Clemson, who somehow, someway, Mr. Dab on him. Dabo Sweeney was able to convince somehow, some way to get him to go back to Clemson for another year. So he is no longer in the draft, so there's a big shakeup there at number 1. Look at the edge rushers at number 5. We had Clellan Ferrell from Clemson, who, much like Wilkins, returned to school. Harold Landry at 4. Dorrance Armstrong Jr. at 3. Arden Key at 2. And Bradley Chubb at 1. So as we go through these rankings, I would, the last couple of rankings that we've done, I have shown highlights and footage and stuff like that. I was looking at the defensive line, and it's like, I kind of want the footage more so to be for the not diehard, the person that just, the casual, if you will. I don't want to throw that term to offend anyone. But people that just want to know what prospects are good. C4, I don't want to analyze film. I just want to see who's good. I mean, the more and more film you look at defensive linemen in particular, and really edge rushers, it's not the most exciting to watch. So I decided for this, probably for most of the defense, I'm not going to be putting any highlights in my videos. If you guys think that should change, I'm probably going to be doing a final 3 ranking after the Combine and the Pro Days have finished, like right before draft time, to give you a final primer. If you want to see some highlights, I could definitely chop up some for the defensive line and the linebackers and the corners and defensive backs and all that stuff. So that is why there's going to be no video footage today, because we're just doing straight up rankings, son. So at number 5 in our 2.0 fresh new rankings for defensive linemen, which is where we're going to start, I have Rasheem Green from USC. Mr. Green, 6'5", 280 pounds on the year, 41 tackles, 12.5 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks. Look at the pros. He is incredibly versatile. I think he's the type of guy that is as good against the pass as he is against the run. His pass block potential. He is a guy that can get his long-rangey arms up at the line of scrimmage and bat down a lot of passes. That is kind of like a hidden intangible that I really feel like, as of the J.J. Watts and the Carlos Dunlaps of the world, that's like people are now looking for that. Back in the day, it was just get after the quarterback, stop the run, set your edge. Now it's like, all right, do all that and as well do what linebackers and defensive backs do and get some pass deflections. I think he definitely has that upside, which goes to the last positive, immense upside. He is an incredibly high ceiling, but that, really translate into the first negative. He's kind of a project type player. If you look on any of the mock draft websites, any of the prospect websites, literally every single one says he should have returned to school, played one more year at USC, because he's a project type player right now going towards the NFL. He doesn't quite have the NFL level of strength, but if he gets on a really good strength and conditioning program, he could make an impact as a rookie. But when you start saying could make an impact, no matter what his upside is, he could very well end up being the best defensive lineman from this class. If I'm trying to rank them, I'm not ranking them on potential. I'm ranking them on guys that have the potential as well as can contribute day one. I'm not sure, unless he goes to the right scheme or unless he goes to a defensive line that's absolutely starving for talent, he might have to sit and wait till, he won't get a whole lot of snaps his rookie season. But the project is there. The upside is there for Rasheem Green. Going number 4, it's going to be Taven Bryan from Florida, 6'5", 295 pounds on the season, 37 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks from my lovely Florida Gators. I feel like I definitely know this guy more than any of the prospects we're going to talk about today, because obviously I went to the painstaking task of being a Florida Gator fan this year, and he was without a doubt, in my opinion, the best player on either offense or defense on this team. He's an incredible athlete, has a bunch of upside, and his tackling is sure. I don't think I see him make a missed tackle once. And kind of as a Philadelphia Eagle fan, as dominant as people say our front 4 is and our big rotation, they do miss an awful lot of tackles for the credit that they get. So when it's kind of fresh when I watch my other team, you see the beast like Taven Bryan. He makes everything. If it's a quarterback, if it's a running back, if it's a tight end, he will make that tackle. He's a converted offensive lineman, but like I said, with the upside tag, it goes into the negatives. He's still kind of a project player. Not as much as Rasheem Green. I think Taven Bryan could definitely get early on in a rotation. But, he's still, the technical side, the technician side, that some of the guys we're going to talk about, the top end of the defensive line, and then even the edge rushers. That is something that I really, really stress, because I feel like if you don't have the mechanics down packed, you're not going to be on the field a whole lot. And I think that when you want to do a true rankings, as long as you tell the lower guys that they have upside and they can eventually be good, so if you draft them, you're not totally bummed out, I think I should highlight and really stress the importance of guys that can start day one, because a lot of people that are going to be investing first-round picks, especially pretty much anywhere that's not quarterback, wants immediate production, wants them to come in and fill a hole. So I think someone like Taven Bryan could do that, but, he still is a little bit of a project player. And overall, man, his production at Florida hasn't been staggering. Doesn't have eye-popping numbers, so that could kind of scare some people off. But I do think he will impress at the Combine and could very well slip into the bottom half of the first round. Going to number 3, it's going to be Reese Hurst from Michigan, 6'2", 285 pounds on the season. He had 32 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, and 5.5 sacks. When you look at Mo Hurst, he is a very good athlete, and I think he will be a day one starter. There's nothing overly flashy about his game. I do think this year, with all the hype about Rashawn Gary in Michigan, I think Mo Hurst personally had a better season and stood out to me in the 4 full Michigan games that I watched this season, because I don't know why. Where I live in Canada, we get a bunch of Wolverines games. I don't know. Wolverines and Notre Dame games are pretty annoying. Luckily, CBS usually has some Florida Gator games, which is decent. But with Mo Hurst, like I said, he's just a safe prospect. But when you look at him, his run defense could improve. I'm very skeptical that it will not be a glaring hole. I think he should be fine. But when sometimes you see him break on a play, it's he struggles sometimes, and you see some big runs on Michigan's defense. It might have come from his gap on the defensive line, and I think he also might have a low ceiling. I don't think he has as much upside as some of these prospects, but I mean, that's a double-edged sword. A, he'll probably be ready to play sooner than these other guys, but B, he might not be able to develop much more than a guy that can get 6 to 8 sacks a year, which is, he's pretty good from an interior, and I think that's if that's his ceiling, it's like, okay, well, everyone wants their first round draft pick to turn into the next Aaron Donald and stuff like that. But if you put Mo Hurst in a 4-3 defensive tackle, he should be a solid starter. And hell, you'll take solid starters are definitely still worth first round draft picks. Maybe not first end though. Look for the back end, early second. Going to number 2, it's going to be Daron Payne, the defensive tackle from Alabama, 6'2", 310 pounds. On the year, he had 53 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 sack for your national champions. We look at Daron Payne. He might be one of the strongest players in this year's draft class. I think he will put up a very big bench press number at the Combine. Really good athlete, though. Really, really good feet, good speed. Like I said, I think he could be a Combine warrior, which will help him out, because really his stats aren't that great, but his tape stands out. He's constantly making plays, and he showed the athletic ability when he caught the touchdown pass. I can't remember that game. I think it was in the semifinals. And again, kind of like Mo Hurst, he's also a day one starter. I think you can plug and play him right away. We look at the negatives with Daron Payne. He's inconsistent as a pass rusher. Like I said, the tackle for loss and sacks aren't really staggering, but that's something that's going to come the more experience he gets, depending on what kind of coaching staff and who can coach him up. I think it's all fixable long term. So I think Daron Payne is very much worthy of a first round draft pick, and it's just another guy in the long line of Alabama defensive linemen. When you compare him to some of the guys that have come out, Jaron Reed, Ashawn Robinson, Jonathan Allen, I think he's right there in the mix and might be the best of that whole bunch. Going to number 1, it is going to be Vita Vea from Washington, 6'4", 340 pounds. On the season, he had 43 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, and 3.5 sacks. When you look at him, man, he is a day one starter. He looks like he just looks like an athletic Danny Shelton. Danny Shelton kind of started out slow for the Cleveland Browns, but now he's definitely a very serviceable starter at D-tackle. He's serviceable. Vea is going to be a dominant guy. I think, we're trying to, place him in the what's the word there? Not prejudice. Is it prejudice? I don't know, man. I didn't really have great social science classes, but you know what I'm saying? Like, just trying to compare him to other Samoans because he's Samoan, but he does really remind me of Haloti Ngata. When you look at his positive, his size, he's absolutely violent, and he still has yet to reach his full potential. But his only negatives, he's inconsistent. Some plays he looks like, oh my god, this guy's going top 5. Then other plays you're like, kind of lazy, maybe 3rd round, something like that. So it's all about what you're going to get, but I think someone will absolutely gamble on the good tape and feel like they can coach him up and get him out of that inconsistent manner. And I think he's going to be an absolute beast. Any Washington Husky fan knows that he is a legitimate first rounder, and he's going to be a stud in the NFL, especially stopping running backs. So that does it for my top 5 defensive line. Now it's time to talk about the edge rushers. A little bit more exciting, right? So at number 5, we have Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio. Mr. Davenport finished with 55 tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks on the year. When you look at the positives, he has great size. He has tremendous size. He might be one of those dudes, I can't remember off the top of my head what his measurement was at the pro day, but he's like 6'6", 6'7", 260. So that is great size for an edge rusher. He's balanced. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass, which is exactly what you want. But I don't know if he's ready to start right now. I know a lot of people in mock drafts have him in that first round category, and he definitely has the upside. I'm sliding that into the plus category. But, you know, he still needs to refine himself. He still needs to get more consistency to his game. And then there's always going to be the knock with the level of the competition. Yeah, those numbers are spectacular, but was the level of competition there? And you see that coming up in a lot of scouting reports. But I think, I mean, like I said, I really do like and put emphasis on how well a player does look in the Senior Bowl, and he absolutely dominated the Senior Bowl. He was definitely a top 5 guy coming out of that, so I think that definitely helps. And if he has a really good combine, I think all the hype is warranted of the team using and investing a first-round draft pick on Marcus Davenport. Just understand he's probably getting much more of a rotational guy year 1, and then hopefully take on his true starting role in year 2. Go number 4, it's going to be Arden Key from LSU, 6'5", 260 pounds on the year. He had 33 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. When you look at Arden Key, tremendous size, exactly the exact kind of size you want for an edge rusher, prototypical size. But, okay, well, the positives. The 2016 Arden Key was incredibly explosive and had a great moveset, had a bunch of pass rushing tools, and he's going up against really good SEC competition, and was making him look foolish. But then actually we come right into the negatives. He is absolutely a boomer bust prospect. He has the off the field issues where, you know, he's, you know, that kind of guy. We're not going to jump right into it. You know what I'm talking about, though. The one scouting thing, I think it was on NFL.com, they said he's the kind of guy, like, once he gets paid his money, if he gets a big contract, like Randy Gregory, kind of going to that time. Are you going to get that? And he, you know, or you're going to get the guy that absolutely wrecked havoc in the SEC. You know what I'm saying? Because he has that tag, I have to put him at number 4. Originally, he was at number 2. But the more and more I thought of it, the more and more I think, like, you know, I can't say for sure that I would want to invest a first-round pick on him. I definitely think he could be a high upside second-round pick. And he definitely needs a good combine. I think if he does have an outstanding combine, he gets his weight under control and really can go off, because he gained a little bit of weight after an injury. I mean, he could jump right back up to number 2. I don't think anyone's overtaking number 1, but I think if he dominates in the combine, which he might have the potential to, he could definitely overlap the guys I have here at 3 and 2, which is why, like I said, at defensive line, we'll probably revisit it after the combine. Going to defensive edge. We'll call him edge. Defensive edge doesn't really make sense. Call them defensive ends. Anyways, number 3, we have Harold Landry from Boston College, 6'3", 250 pounds on the season. He had 38 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 5 sacks. Had a little bit of an injury, and his production in 2015 and 2016 was simply outstanding. When you look at Harold Landry, he's incredibly explosive. Might have, you know, out of the guys we're mentioning, test the best at the combine, and he's just an absolute stud at rushing the passer. But the negatives is his run defense and his tackling. Sometimes he whiffs on tackles more often than not against strong competition. When they had their big games for Boston College, it seems like, yeah, he might make a couple plays, make a play here and there, but against the run, it's just like when the running back, they don't fear him. The running back was like, I know this guy here, first round draft pick. He could be a running back that's gonna be working at Best Buy in 3 years. He's like, I'm still probably gonna take him on here because I don't think he can wrap me up in open space. So he needs to get more consistent to his game there. And because I think the upside and what he can bring in terms of sack numbers is really, really high, as high as maybe anyone in the class. I just think because when you draft him, until he gets the run game down and becomes more versatile, he's probably going to be a rotational pass rusher, and you don't really want to invest that first round pick in a guy that's going to start out as a rotational pass rusher. So because of that, unless he proves me wrong, I have him at number 3 in my rankings, but I think after the combine, a team is definitely going to fall in love with him and will be willing to invest that first round pick. Go number 2, I have Sam Hubbard from Ohio State, 6'5", 265 pounds on the season. He had 42 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, and 7 sacks. When you look at the positives, he's absolutely relentless. He's very, very consistent. He's good against the pass and the run, and has a high football IQ. He's a guy that if he goes to the right scheme, he can start day 1 and stay on the field for all 3 downs. The only negative with him, really, is when you look at how good of an athlete is he? How well is he going to test at the combine? Which, I mean, you don't want to put a whole lot of stock into the combine grade. But when we talk about guys like Davenport, Key, Landry, these are guys that could very well be, we're not going to say that they bust, but they could very well be very good rotational edge rushers. But I think a guy like Sam Hubbard has the potential to stay on the field for all 3 downs, which in my opinion makes him a little bit more valuable than the other guys we have mentioned. Whereas he's definitely not probably as good an athlete as Marcus Davenport, Harold Landry, and probably Arden Key. But I think from the consistency, that he's a safe pick. That's why I have to have Sam Hubbard at number 2, which is a little bit higher than everywhere else I've looked, but his tape looked really solid to me. So I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking my neck out on the line for you. So don't make me look like a jackass, Sam Hubbard. Even though he went to a jackass school like Ohio State. The Ohio State. And wrapping up with the number 1 edge rusher, it is going to be Bradley Chubb from NC State. 6'4", 275 pounds on the year. He had 72 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks. He's a beast, man. He's absolutely the best. You know what? He's probably the best defender in the class. You know, you got Roquan Smith, Minka Fitzpatrick. I still think I'm giving it to Bradley Chubb for the best guy here. Should go top 3, definitely top 5. He's a day 1 starter, incredibly high work rate, excellent technique, very good strength, pretty good athlete. And he's a leader, man. He is like tick, 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 tick. There you go. If you need a defensive end, I think he's versatile too. It's going to be interesting to see if he can play in a 3-4 scheme as a defensive end there because he's 275. He definitely has the frame that he could bulk up. But I definitely see him. I see 4-3, but I mean, a lot of scouts are divided on it where he could play. Really, the only negative for him is just how well is he going to test? How good of an athlete is he truly? Because, usually when you draft a defensive end in the high top 5, top 3, they usually match it with insane athletic ability. We saw with Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. I don't know if Bradley Chubb's going to be in that mold of an athlete, but I definitely think he's going to be good enough to go, top 5 because his production and all the intangibles and the technique is there. But he definitely is a guy that if he kind of goes, oh my God, he's that slow, or oh my God, he didn't put that much on the bench press, it could hurt his stock a little bit, but I personally don't think that's true, and I think that he's going to be an absolute stud. If they're the Colts and you're the Bucks, any of those teams, the Bucks might want to have to trade up and get him. He's going to be an absolute monster as a rookie. So there you go, guys. Those are my top 10 defensive linemen, 5 D tackles, and 5 edge rushers. If you agree or disagree with anyone that I've talked about today, let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe if it's your first time stopping by. Draft season is just starting here on the channel, and you don't want to miss a single video about it. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.